I was working in the yard over the weekends, and I was thinking, I went on YouTube, did DIY a certain project I was working on, and so I was thinking about do it yourself. I was doing things myself. Everyone does things themselves, and Google's available. We're in the internet age. We look things up, we diagnose things ourselves, and I was thinking about how that applies to legal work, and I see it all the time. I see people that Google forms, they Google contracts, they draft their own agreements, and that's fine. Don't get me wrong. People can practice law for themselves. It's kind of a misnomer that they can. They can do things for themselves. They can be pro se in court for themselves. They just can't represent other people. But even though they can do it for themselves, it's not always the right thing to do. And I was thinking about WebMD too, and I'm guilty of it as well. I'll have some symptoms and I'll go on WebMD, and all of a sudden I'm a doctor diagnosing my problems. The problem with this, and it works a lot of the time until it doesn't work. And so if I misdiagnose myself, and let's say I have cancer, and so I don't think it's something serious, but it is something serious, and then I end up in the hospital, I end up in ICU. So that's kind of what I think about. The biggest issue for me, and it just kills me, is when I meet with a new client and I have to put them in ICU. They're like, here's the contract that I prepared myself. I negotiated it, and a problem came up, because they're coming to see me when there's a problem. They're not going to see me if there's not. And so we have to go to ICU, and ICU is litigation. And so it could have cost, $500,000, couple $1,000s on the front end to prepare a contract, to do it right on the front end. And now we're spending that amount of money every month over a period of a year or two, or trying to settle a case, and it's way more expensive on the back end. It's like preventative health care versus going to the ICU, being in the hospital and paying top dollar for something. And like I said, I've seen it over and over again. I had a meeting with a client yesterday. He's a serial entrepreneur, and he reminded me how at my last firm, because he didn't use an attorney up front with several businesses he had, he was in contentious litigation that lasted for years, and he spent close to $1 million in litigation fees. And I'll tell you, doing the corporate work up front to structure that right wouldn't have cost nearly that much. So I had a meeting with him. That was over a lot of contractual issues he could have done. I've also seen a situation, a lot of people do company agreements, they buy them online. The problem with the form online is it's going to be very down the road, middle down the road agreement. When I do an agreement, I represent one side or the other, so I'm always thinking about that one side and putting in things that benefit them. So this agreement, there was these members in an LLC, and one of them publicly was busted for child pornography. It hit the news, it affected the reputation of the company. They needed to get him out of the company, and they did that. The question was, do they have a right to do it, and what's the value of his interest? So we had to litigate that because it wasn't covered in the agreement. Again, we probably spent $50,000, $75,000 litigating that issue until it was settled. We could have dealt with that with the provision on the front end. So these are the kinds of things I was thinking about, the things I want to share with you. Should I do things myself? It is okay sometimes, and sometimes it gets bearing straight. But again, I'm a professional. I deal with these all the time, and oftentimes I feel it like insurance. You buy insurance and you pay a little bit just in case your house is destroyed. You don't want to wait till your house is destroyed to go talk to an insurance agent. So that's kind of like dealing with an attorney too, and that's what I try to get my clients to do, is to deal with these things up front so they don't have to deal with them later.